Have you experienced homelessness before?
Yes, currently right now. I was in an aftercare shelter and they were mistreating me, so I ran away. Because CPS wasn't willing to do anything about it. They literally told me there was nowhere else for me to go.
How old were you when you entered foster care?
I was 13. My stepdad was molesting me and raping me and beating me, so I went to go live with my grandparents for a while, but then I moved back in with my mom. But she wanted to go back to my stepdad, so she ended up sending us off to foster care because she didn't want to deal with it.
What was your foster care experience like?
I was forced to lose contact with my sisters. I wasn't allowed to receive letters. I wasn't allowed to receive phone calls. I wasn't allowed to go on visits. I wasn't even allowed to know how my sisters were doing. CPS, they say they protect you, but they don't. They just kept moving me around in places were sometimes worse than the last, sometimes better. At a young age, I had started to cut and try to commit suicide several times throughout my life. And still CPS was like, you're just acting out, you just want attention. I started skipping school a lot. I ran away quite a few times. I wound up in mental hospitals back to back. Was put on heavy medication that wasn't even proper for my age. If I had a chance to relive my life, I would definitely prefer that I would have just stayed home. I moved at least 4 or 5 times a month.
Is there anybody you would reach out to who might have been able to help you, or an adult at
There wasn't anybody at that time.
Was the experience the same, do you feel like, in Texas as opposed to dealing with Florida CPS or Missouri CPS?
Sometimes the situations were better. Sometimes the worker was, able to listen to me a little bit better, but still wasn't able to fix the problems completely.
So to you, is it essential to have people who care in those positions?
I definitely think they should do better background checks before sticking a kid into a home.
Is school important to you?
Yes.
Okay. So you're ready to go back? Do you want to go back?
Yes. I'd like to get my diploma, but apparently you can't. I have to go for my GED instead. Which I'm fine with that, but I would have liked to get my diploma.
In between that 6-month period of you losing your housing and finding the drop-in center, how did you survive that? Like, what did you do?
I pretty much just went day from day, did what I could. Some days I had to fly signs, some days I was able to find odd and end jobs, but it was never easy.
And where did you stay?
On the streets.
On the streets?
Will, the old director of the drop-in, was the one that found me. He was passing out flyers letting people know that the drop-in was open. And, there was just something about him I could trust. And I told him my story, and he pretty much picked me up, took me to the drop-in, and I was pretty much set from there.
Is there anything you've had problems getting? Ever since
records from CPS, like whenever I needed like my school records or something like that, they gave me hell. They said it's partly because I ran away and partly because a lot of my information was either lost or was thrown out.
Have you had problems with police officers and peace officers?
The only time they really bothered me is like if I'm sleeping somewhere I'm not supposed to, they'll be like, can I see your ID? They'll give me a warning. I only ever got criminal trespassing once. And it was because I was in an area I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be in.
Did you have to go to court for that?
I went to jail for it.
What was the hardest thing about that 6 months without any home at all?
The fact that it was an entirely new experience all on its own. I mean, I'd pretty much gotten used to the bad treatment. I pretty much knew how to avoid it, but it was the fact of I was so used to having a roof over my head, even if it was like a bad home. It was the point where it was like, well, what now?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Off the streets with a job.
If you woke up tomorrow and all of your problems were fixed, what would that look like?
Heaven. Because if I could get rid of my fears, it'd be great.